the engine bay, cable ties holding things together, covered up the carburettor to stop debris going down it, lightly greased the accelerator cable, put little bits of masking tape so when he tries the bonnet on they're not going to damage the paint. Things like the servos cleaned up and painted. He's obviously washed that reservoir in thinners, got it really clean, scrubbed it up. You can see he's mounted the coil there very, very carefully on a bracket. Looks like he sprayed it gold. All the wiring loom is labelled up. New correct SBA leads. You'll see he's spent quite a bit of time on the alternator, cleaning that up, painting that silver, touch of red to make it attractive. Where he's got the brake pipes in, he's already taped them up to stop anything going down the end of it. He's fitted the little control box there, that's a good idea. He's got the little control box there, and it looks like he's retaped the loom. If you can look into the engine bay, you'll see he's painted the engine a nice shade of conifer green.
Stop.
He's painted the engine a nice shade of conifer green, and he looks like he's either shot blasted or sprayed silver. The aluminium engine stays, new oil filter. Inside the engine bay, everything's painted matte black. All these panels are matte black, so that means that he doesn't have to, once he's ready to paint it, he doesn't have to do the inside of the car. As we come to the very front, nice touch, little bit of half-inch copper domestic heating pipe squashed at the end, but a steady for the radiator there. He's got the P-clips holding the radiator on as we've shown. Foam down there to stop debris going in there. Looks like the front suspension's all been assembled correctly. He does need to take a little bit more off the bottom arms of the suspension. He's got bump stops in. It's all been painted matte black, ready to go. Obviously, one of the things you're going to have to watch when it's been painted is that when the outside's been painted, that we don't get a lot of overspray in the engine compartment, because that'll spoil it. So he's really got to get a polythene sheet and really cling it round the engine really tight and mask it off to keep all the dust and the overspray from the engine compartment. As we look inside, the area under the scuttle or under the back of the bonnet, you can see he's got the stay there that we've recommended to support that pedal unit. He's got the clip, the big Flash P clip round the side there, around that, and then he's got a little stiffener at the side there off the tube. He's obviously got the later chassis with the instruments in the middle. He's chosen to stiffen that up there. Again, he's got the original wiring loom that he has retaped and tidied up. He's got the fuse box just there. Everything's been taped, labelled, ready to go, ready for the big plug to snap in the back of the instruments. It'll make it so simple to wire up. Neat little thing. He's got the instruments held in with a couple of little clips down there. You can see that's a self-adjusting mechanism on the clutch. I probably haven't covered that before. And he's got the steering working perfectly. No problems at all. Even keeping pushes nice and straight. So he's got in the mild steel bodied car with the twin tube exhaust pipe, we've got the steering going through the centre of the pedals against on the right hand side of the pedals with the stainless one. Yeah, he's mounted the accelerator pedal directly onto the back of the servo mounting panel, and all that's gone in okay. As we're moving towards the dashboard, you'll see that he's got the square cut hole there for the instruments just there, and he's got the nicely mounted the indicator switches, the hazard button and the original controls with the Ford Sierra wheel like that. Obviously with the cowl, that's all great. He's got it at a reasonable height. Obviously that's the advantage of having the instruments in the middle, because you can lift the steering wheel up. He's got a hole there for the gear stick. That is perfect. That is in the middle, clears it nicely. And he's, as we've said, he's planished the edge of that over, ready to cover it with carpet. You can see that he's got all the panels in nicely. Probably too many screws holding that, bolts holding that together, but that's beside the point. And he's got everything primed, ready to go. Towards the back of the car, we look at the diff. That's a work of art in its own, all been cleaned up, prepared, and colour contrasted, painted. And then we've got pipes already in position, fuel pipes, and wiring loom. Shock absorbers, looks like they've been cleaned up and sprayed to make them look attractive. We're now going to move towards the problems with the car, which is probably a little bit more interesting. And this did revolve around fitting the rear wings. His problems revolved around fitting the rear wings, and at this point that's when he came to me for help. Now, without any doubt, our friend is a perfectionist, and I can understand him wanting to get things right, having gone through all the trouble. And I decided to look at this and see just exactly what we could do, what we could recommend, or how we could help. So you can see that he's already had a wing on, as it's all been drilled, and he's obviously got the axle in the right place, the wheels in the right place. So we come now to get a wing. This is a wing we've put together. It's the same as one that he has put together, and we've got it square onto the steel, and we've bent the tags over just like we've done in the video, and we've got one screw at the bottom at that end. That's the back where we've folded it. At the other end we've got one screw there. Just show you on the early cars, remember, you might find your wings are shorter and you haven't got as much material here, but don't worry, because the stone guard does cover that. You'll see that we've got the screw just there and a little hole behind the screw. What happened was that the hole below the screw was the first hole that we did, and that left the wing a little bit loose. So all we did is drill another hole to itch it up tighter, and that pulled the wing to make it nice and tight just there. And we've stuck it with masking tape so that we could offer it up. So we come now to offer the wing up, and you'll straight away see why our friend was disappointed, and I can understand that. We come to offer the wing up, and we've got the problem that, let's clamp this together. Right, I'm now going to clamp this wing in position, and obviously that goes underneath there, and at the back we're going to clamp the wing, the bottom of the wing, level with the back panel. I think it's a natural place, but I could alter it again. And we've got that just there, and then we're going to clamp it at the top there. Like so. So provisionally we can see that there is a little bit of a problem because it's not naturally sitting right. We've got no gap there and too big a gap there. So we're going to try now to see what we can do to alter it. So we're going to pull it like that. So we can see that that's coming better. But when we come round here to look just here, which I want you to come round, Gina. So even if we pull the wing so that it's central on the wheel, we've got this disaster area just here. It's nothing like. Terrible. So what do? We look carefully at the car and just see if there's anything that's not quite right. And straight away an alarm bell rings because this side panel doesn't look quite right. And what's happened is that quite naturally the builders assumed that the panel should be pushed in as far as it can at the bottom. Well, this isn't quite right. This isn't how it should be. There isn't so big a change in direction in the 2B as there is with other cars. So all I'm going to do is release the screws that hold the panel onto the floor. So we're going to take the screws out. There's just one screw left in. So we take that screw out like that. The bottom. My ball pack showing.
No.
And we're going to pull the panel out, like so. And straight away, we can see that this has improved the shape of the wing. So now, we've got to use a little bit of force, and we're going to push the panel out to meet the wing, like so. I'm going to use a little bit of brute force, and we're going to pull this wing as far forward as we can, and we're going to try to clamp the two together. And I'm really going to pull it further forward than where it was originally before. And obviously I'm also pulling this panel out there. Like so. Now that's definitely helped. So now we can see that we've got the wing come forward, and this space here has closed up. We're also getting a marker and mark square on along there like that. And now we're going to remove the wing. We're now going to whiz along here and snip it up to the line like that. Every inch.
Okay.
Now we're going to bend these tags over, but this time just by hand, because we want a more gentle curve on them to correspond with the curve in the sheet, in the tube. Like so. Okay, we're now going to put the wing back on again. We now come to try to offer the wing up again. At the bottom, we're going to just pull this forward, probably about the same position as it was fitted before. Just a little bit further forward, like that. And that's pulling the side out as well. Now, as we come to look square on at the wheel, we can still see we've got a small gap there and a bigger gap there. But we can see by just carefully manipulating the wing like that, we can square it up. Just clamp that back up. There we go. So we can manipulate the wing a little bit like this so that it squares up the gap better. And we'll just move this back pair of vice grips in a little bit and try to close the gap. And you can see that by pulling this out at the bottom, you can see how, again, that's closing the gap up, so we can get that gap right. Now this is looking quite promising. Now if we fire the camera underneath the wing, as we look underneath the wing now, you can see that the original holes that the builders put in, that's where the wing's been fixed before. So the problem with lots of these jobs on the Robin Hood is people do have predetermined ideas, preconceived ideas. The other big problem is that they don't appreciate that there should be quite a lot of gap between the top of the tyre and the wing on the 2B. unlike our competitors' cars that does sit a lot lower. So you've got to remember, try not to get fixed too firmly in your mind where things are until you've had an open mind and looked at it again. So we've got that wing in a slightly different position, and we can see now that by manipulating the panels that we're going to get the wing right. We've still got a little bit of a big gap at the back. We've also got this gap at the back. Obviously, once we put all the screws in, this is going to pull up quite a lot, but it's not going to pull up enough. So we're just going to try something now. What we're going to do, we're trying to push this panel out, and this panel's quite rigid. We're going to drill out those two top rivets there. So we've got two top rivets just there like that. So we're taking those out. That one. And that one. And that's now making this panel a lot more flexible. So what we're going to do now, we're going to now attempt to fit this wing permanently so we've got the gap right. But just remember, we've given you measurements from the distance of the bottom of the body to the floor, that you must have that right before you start, because as that wheel arcs, it could alter these gaps. So we're now going to try to fix that wing in so that we've got a more even gap like that. With this being the key gap we're closing up, what we want to do now is to drill holes as close to the edge of the wing as possible. So we're going to project where we think the edge of the wing is going to come. So with a marker, we're going to draw around there like that. And we know when the wing does go that way, that is exactly where it's going to go. And the same at the front of the wing here. That we're going to draw down there like that. And that also tells us where the wing's going to go. So what we're going to do now is take the wing off and drill holes that are as close as possible to that white line, so that when we do pull the wing in, we'll be gripping up very close to the top corner, so we can pull it up. And we'll put lots of self-tapping screws in so that we can spread the pressure and pull it up gradually. Okay. So we're now going to drill a fresh set of holes along that line like that. But there was one thing that we didn't do. So annoying. We'll go back and do it again. There's one thing we didn't do, and that was, I'll offer the wing back up. We need, when we do drill the holes, we're aiming to get them kind of just there, in the middle of every tag. So we'll offer the wing back up to where it was before. Like that. And can you see?
Yeah.
And we need to just project in between every tag where it is like that. Now this is going to be a bit painful. It'll take quite a while to drill all these holes. We're only going to drill them an eighth because we're going to put self-tapping screws in. Eventually, for those perfectionists, they may want to swap the self-tapping screws for 2BA, nice little 2BA. I've chosen to move down about ½ an inch from the main line, so that's above the original idea, and I'm drilling each one of those along there like that. You see we've drilled that row of holes now, and you see there's a vast difference in the original holes and our holes. So obviously in the very beginning we've got the wing in the wrong position. So we're starting again now to put the wing back on and clamp it up, and we're going to now put an assortment of screws in to try to pull the wing together. Switch on. You can see now the difference between the old and the new holes. So we're drilling through the new holes now. We're making sure that we're going into the centre of the tag on the other side. We're steadying the wing. And drilling through, like that. We're now going to put a self-tapping screw in. Put one screw in, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 holes down, or 4 holes down, or 3 holes down, and drill again. And put another screw in. Remember at this stage, don't pull the screws up too tight, because we have got a little bit of a chance with these wings, because you've still got the beading to go there, so they don't have to be pulled up that tight. So that goes there like that, and we're all the way around now, putting screws in every 3rd hole, including at the very front. Right, that's the wing now screwed on, and if we have a look now, we can see that it's screwed on, and it's still a little bit, the gap's narrower at the front than at the back. But all we're going to do now is to get the wing like this, and we're just going to just press it like that, just to adjust it. And that widens that gap there, closes the gap at the back, and it springs back, and we've got the wing at the wheel pretty central in the wing hole, like that. Okay? And that gap's about right there, and these gaps are about right. Does that look all right, cameraman?
Yep.
You're not just saying that, are you?
No, it's okay for me.
In the process of manoeuvring this wing, backward and forward, we've got to look to see what parts are moving on the rest of the car. We know down there we need to screw that back in, so that's solid where we've taken the screws out underneath the floor. So we'll put the screws back in there, and then as we come, square it up again, as we come to the back of the car, just come round here. You could perhaps get a job at MGM Film Studios or something like that, do you think, eh?
Possibly.
Right, you ready?
Yeah.
So, as we're moving this wing to get that adjustment, we've got to see what's moving. So obviously, the difference between good and bad or right and wrong is in this area here. So we know that we're going to eventually put that back, fasten that back where, in the position when the wing's right. But what we really need to do is some bracketry along the bottom here, probably triangulate that corner, so that when we have got the wing in the right position, that hasn't got the opportunity to move. So now it's right, that's right. So all we'll do now is make up a triangular plate or a stay or a bracket of some description to make that corner solid. But just make sure that you have got the gaps right. Even though we've only got a screw in every 3rd hole, that's pulled up quite nicely there. So what I'm going to do now is to show you 2 or 3 other things to how to finish off this wing. So we do need to put all the rest of the screws in the back wing. So I'll just get the other components now that we're involved with. That's the wing piping and the banana shaped strip that covers that, and the stone guard. We now come to fit the stone guard. Now ideally we would take the wing off now, and we would fold this bottom piece that's left. So we'd mark it there and mark it in that corner. We take it off and we'd put a neat fold along there. In this case, because we're a bit pushed for time, we're just going to snip that off with the snips, right? Because in any event, the stone guard covers it. This is the stone guard, made plenty big enough. We sell these to people that build low costs. So we've got the big stone guard like that, and we've just cut a paper template of ideally how the stone guard should be. So you can see that that paper template, even if you haven't got that very good there, we've got it reasonable, we haven't got it very good, then the paper template will go on there, and we'll get it snug up to there. We've rounded the corners off, we've got it so it touches the body there and just comes up to that corner. So we're now going to put that on there, draw around that, and then make it out of stainless. We're now going to trim around this like so. Peel the plastic off like that, and that's your stone guard that will go on the wing there, and it could cover up quite a few mistakes you've made. You'll drill it all the way around the top, the side and the bottom, every inch apart, quarter from the side, and you put pop rivets in, trapping the pop rivets with the stone guard beading you received in the kit. So that's a stone guard, pretty straightforward. Now come to the crescent shaped infill panel, which is made like the stone guard, oversized, and that fits there just to finish that off. So we're going to offer it up against the wing like so, and we're going to scribe around it with the marker like so, and then trim that off. There's plenty of material there to trim, so we're trimming that off like so all the way along, so that it's the shape of the wing, it fits the wing nice. We're going to mark it just there, and there, and snip those bits off. And then we'll trim it so that it's parallel all the way around. And I'm doing this by eye. Obviously you can do it more precisely with a pair of odd leg calipers or any kind of mechanical device that you've got. Something like that. So that will then go on there, that will be pop riveted on, and then the rubber strip will then go, the rubber finisher or leather cloth finisher will go over the top. With this being a mild steel car, any mistakes that the builder makes, he can rectify, as he's got a couple of little mistakes there in the back panel. He's filled those, and obviously they won't be seen when it's painted. You don't get that chance with the stainless, unfortunately. Again, with this business just here, we've made a relatively good job of that. If you didn't get it very good, then you could fill it, and then you wouldn't see the gap that's there. That could be roughed up, filled, and then a dummy gap put in there in the filler. But obviously the real thing you should do, I mean, we've only got a third of the screws in there. Once we've got all the screws in, it'll probably pull up tighter. In a situation like that, to be correct, then we should be using this proper tadpole beading. We do sell this, we sell it by the metre. It's not expensive, but per metre it costs. And that pushes into that gap there, right in like that, and it makes a neat job of it. But remember, having paid £11.45 plus VAT for the kit, and you probably paid £50 for the donor vehicle, you're already out of budget. So there are people out there building cars very similar to this for £250. So we've got to get this finished off as cheap as possible. So I'll show you an alternative. Obviously, as you remember, the video does show you a way to do it with that cable you get in the kit, but I'll show you a slightly better way now. We're going to get a strip of leather cloth that is the length of the wing, like so. And we're going to lay it, this can be any colour that you like, and we're going to lay it onto this little piece of timber like that. And then we're going to get the coaxial cable that you got in the kit, and remember we showed you how to do it with Sikaflex, but this is probably a better way. We're going to get the coaxial cable, and we're going to lay the coaxial cable on top of the leather cloth, and then with a couple of small nails, or possibly a couple of pop rivets that we just happen to have handy, we're going to just pop a nail or a pop rivet into the end like that, and then we're going to pull the pop rivet in remember in the kit we gave you that glue. This glue isn't the absolute best glue in the world, so anywhere that's really important, like your dashboard, you could do with using Evo stick. But for this kind of thing, it's perfect. So we're going to spray that with the glue like that. Let's move the cable a little bit to get underneath it. Give it a second coat, like that. And then making sure it's in the middle. I think the instructions say wait a minute. It's a nice warm day, so a minute, 45, 46, 47, 45, that's it, that's a minute. So now we're going to get that, we're going to roll it over and press it well into the corner, like so. Glued it together. For a super job, you could get your wife to run it through the sewing machine, and that would be absolutely terrific. But obviously, once you do get it in position, the two panels hold it in place. So I'm going to take the screws out now and put this in, and then you'll see how it finishes that off. Right, that's the beading on and the stone guard on. We've put that little strip on there. We've put 3 pop rivets in. Just flanish that over like so. So you can see we've just got 3 self pop rivets in the stone guard. That's got to have more pop rivets in yet. It's meeting the body down there. We need the beading, and you'll see how that beading we've made has gone nicely into that gap there. Just come round the back, cameraman. You can see that that's more than adequately filled that gap just there without the need for any filler. And it's gone on really well. All that's left now is to secure the wing on the outside of the wing on properly. So we put in the combination lamp over the back, and put a fastener underneath the lamp where you won't see it, and then you need some fasteners underneath the stone guard where you won't see it. And then basically there's not much more to hold the wing on except a bit of sealer on the inside. So that's worked quite well. Just come round, please. So from a job that started off looking a little bit disastrous, it's worked out okay. We've got a nice gap front and back of the wing and the correct height above it. So just to recap, the mistakes on this particular car is basically 3 things. One, as you can see from the fresh set of screws, that the wing was in the wrong position at the back. That was the first thing. The wing being fastened there so that the side panel wasn't so flexible. And then probably the third thing was this panel was far too far in at the bottom. We've taken it out probably a good 1.25 inches. So we've pulled that bottom out, and that's really done the trick. Serrated that section that went underneath the tube so that you could actually bring this part of the wing a little bit further forward. Remember, if you were really desperate, you could trim that off altogether and let the wing ride forward of the tube, but it shouldn't be necessary. About the boot area of the car, we've now tried to get as much room in the boot as possible, and we've panelled out the boot. But I'm going to draw your attention immediately to the bracket that we've got that holds a tank into position. So the tank sits onto the chassis at the back, and you know it protrudes slightly into the occupant compartment. But we've got a bracket that we've made that comes off that returned back panel just there, bolts onto there, and it bolts onto the existing hole that's already in the tank. Don't drill any more holes in the tank, use the ones that there is. So we've got a bracket that comes off the side onto the existing hole, an L-shaped bracket. We're now going to look underneath the car, and there is another P-clip type bracket that we've put round the chassis and again into the flange on the tank, and we've bolted the new piece of floor that we've made onto that bracket. So you'll see the two bolts from the top, and then we'll just look underneath and you'll see the bracket we've made underneath. So here you see the tank, and that's the chassis tube there, and there's a P bracket just there. We've made it P-clip around the tube, extended it through the existing hole in the tank, and then up through this floor that we've made. So we'll just go long swept wings. For these wings to be in the correct position, the very front of the wing must be level with the front of the road wheel, not the tyre, the metal wheel. Unlike earlier Robin Hoods, these wings do fit further down the panel. So as we look at the wing from the top, we will see that the start of the wing must be roughly in line with the back of the back wishbone just there. As we look underneath the wing, the kit, you'll be given a length of 3/4 square box, which you simply just put in the vise and bend at the point, which is 7.5 inches up like that, that supports the wing underneath, like so. That just bolts to the body. Remember that this goes on the front of the hole for the exhaust. So wherever the hole for the exhaust is, this goes at the front of the hole. And obviously you've got to bend it to fit the to accept the contours of the wing. The height of the wing from the tyre is roughly that of a clenched fist. So you put your fist on top of the tyre, perhaps another inch, and that's how far the wing should be from the tyre. So we come to the front wing bracket, which is the key bracket, and you'll see that is in two parts. So the front wing bracket comes in that form. That is the piece that you'll be given from us, and then you need an extension to it, which is one of those, the same as the cycle wing brackets that you've got 4 of, with the bend in. You do need to squash the tube, like so, and then probably curve that a little bit, so as it goes underneath the wing. So we've got that sits on top of the headlamp bracket like so, and then that pushes into it. But we have to obviously lift the wing up to do that. So that is lifted up like that. That goes on top, and then if we look underneath, we'll see that that is pushed into that, and then that's just tweaked, shaped, so it follows the contour of the wing. Now remember these wings, that don't over tighten the bolts that hold them on. You're using the 5mm roofing bolts to hold them on. Don't over tighten those, and you can just bed them on a bed of Sikaflex.
Okay.
In the kit, you're given some black plastic piping that's shaped like a tadpole. That goes in between the wing and the bodywork, just here. This stainless steel car is nearing completion now, and you see we have the bonnet that we've been working on off the car just here, with the windscreen fitted to it. And you can see that as we're doing the jobs on the car, the wiring and all the tricky bits under the dashboard, it is very, very easy to work on in that form, as there isn't a scuttle there to get in the way. Now we've put these triangular infill panels in here. Now you don't get these in the kit, but I think it's a good idea for you to make these. Just a little bit of flat material made into a triangle, and that will stop a lot of the weather getting in. So that's a good idea that you make these and you do those yourself. New wishbone front suspension that you will receive if you've paid extra and you've got the plus pack. As we look at the chassis here, it It's entirely different at the front. You'll see there are two box members predominantly. At the very front there's a different type cradle that picks up the rack, which is a lot shorter than the other rack, and then there's two more angular members further back that pick up the backs of the wishbone. And you can see it's got different headlamp plates altogether. We start with the two wishbones, and we start with the top wishbone. Both the top wishbones are identical, and we start off by screwing in the top ball joint. This has been threaded all the way down to accept this top suspension joint. A little bit of oil, light oil, or better still heavy oil, on this thread before you start it will make sure that when you do come to unscrew it for maintenance, then you won't have a problem getting it out. So we thread the ball joint into the top arm. We now come to the bottom arm, and we must first of all identify which arm is for which side. And if you look at that carefully, then you'll see that this is for the offside of the car. Now, there is a screw-in ball joint, so we've decided to screw these ball joints in for you before you get them, just to make sure you get the wishbones on the right side and there isn't any complication with the ball joint. If you do need to replace this, then we have these available, and they will unscrew. Although I would say that we do put these in whilst the wishbone is still warm, so they've probably shrunk and it's quite a tight fit. So that's a tight fit now, and that threads in. While you're working on your car, make sure you don't damage these gaiters that are on the ball joints. Also, don't lose the nuts that are supplied, because they are a special fine metric thread. To continue with the assembly, both the sloping arms of the wishbones go to the front. So whatever happens, make sure that you don't get the wishbones on the wrong way. So we start off by starting on the front top wishbone, and that goes into that box like that. So first of all, we'll make a start by deburring inside the box. So there's one hole drilled in this box. You do need to fine it from the inside. To get the burr off. Again, with this wishbone, remember that the longest side, the side with the slope arm, goes to the front. So we now come to put the bushes in, and these are special bushes, Nylaspa bushes, so they go in there like that, in there like that, and these just tap in. Like that. They're a precise fit. They push in like that. So the next thing is there is some internal tubes that go inside the bushes like that and like that. Now these tubes have been precisely cut so that they fit inside that box. So providing you've deburred that, these go inside there. You might just have to tap that a bit. Yes, they go in there like that. Now, it is important that you understand the principle of this suspension system and exactly how these bushes work. I'll just take out that tube, or better still, I'll get another tube. What happens is that, as you can see, that tube does revolve freely inside that Nylaspa bush. and the actual inside tube, which the 10mm bolt goes through like that, that tube is fixed. And as you can see, it's a tight fit inside that box. Once the tube's in and you put the nut and bolt right the way through and you've tightened up that, that bolt, then that tube is fixed and the Nile Asper bush rotates on the tube. You'll see also that the